everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel, and this is the Player in Focus show after the Leeds game, the 0-0 draw at Elland Road on Sunday. We did a Twitter poll after I did the rating show yesterday, and on the Twitter poll we had Bruno up there, we had Marcus, Mason, and we had Dan James, and Dan James commanded out. There was almost 2,000 votes on there, and Dan James commanded over 40% of the votes. As I've tried to explain numerous times before, what I am doing here is I'm trying to show that Dan James played a better game. I gave him a 6 out of 10, which is just a decent to above average game. 5 is average, so decent is slightly above average. And to show that, I'm obviously showing the good bits. Some people come on and say, why haven't you shown him do this and why haven't you shown him do that? Of course, there are 3 or 4 bits where he should have done better, maybe even 4 or 5, no more than that, but no more than any of the other forwards either. But he does a lot more good stuff than most, and not as much bad stuff, certainly not as much bad stuff as one particular player anyway. So I'm going to show 4 or 5 good bits. I'm going to do it in 2 threads. It's going to be a 7 on one thread and 7 on, I've got 14 clips. There'll be 7 on one thread, 7 on the other thread, and the first thread's going to show quite a few good bits, mainly good bits, and then the second thread is going to be mainly about decision making and about the importance of taking a good first touch and passing it quickly, which I believe Dan James does better than our other forwards. And I'm going to show instances of what I mean and where I want us to improve, why I think our play would improve if more players played like that, rather than running with the ball too often, and when they get the ball, not seeing the fact that they can touch it and pass it as quickly as they should do. But the first thread of 7 starts with a clip from the 25th minute. In the 25th minute, we have our best move of the game so far. It's not a lot of competition, to be honest, but it's easily our best move of the game so far. We develop the ball down the right-hand side of the field. Dan James happens to be in the middle at this point, so he makes a run through the inside right channel. The ball's played into him. The defender's keeping him away from the goal. Dan James is keeping his body between the defender and the ball. Gets to the ball, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 yards from the dead ball line, turns back to look for support, which is the correct thing to do. Sees, I think, Wan-Bissaka. There's another Leeds player bearing down on him, though. He has to just beat him to the ball and poke it out back to Wan-Bissaka, and then he gets himself back out of the box and gets level with the ball. Bruno plays the ball to Dan James again, and Dan plays it in behind for Bruno to run onto. Bruno gets into the box, finds Mason Greenwood, and Mason Greenwood's touch lets him down, if I'm honest, and maybe it certainly would have been a shooting chance if Mason would have controlled it. But it's easily our best move of the first half, and it's mainly about Dan James. Wan-Bissaka's involved and Bruno's involved, but Dan James running to the box gives them that option, helps us keep the ball in that third, and then also he's the man who actually puts Bruno in behind, and it's probably the only time in the first half that we actually get someone into a dangerous position behind their back four. So that was in the 25th minute. I'm going to show a couple of other clips from the first half. Second clip number 2 on the first thread is just a throw-in from Luke Shaw down the line to Dan James. He takes control of it with a defender on his back. We've got players who don't control it well enough, trust me. I've seen Roy Keane say this. I've seen Roy Keane say, you need to get a good first touch, and the commentator said to him, well, surely they all take a good first touch, and Keane said, you'd be surprised. And we've got a few that don't take a good first touch often enough. Anyway, he takes a good first touch, turns to take his man on, gets fouled, and we get a free kick. It's in a wing position, but it is in a dangerous position. And then clip number 3, he receives the ball probably 10 yards outside the box, beats a man, gets clipped, wins a free kick in a shooting position this time, and we won 4 free kicks in the first half in dangerous positions, 2 from crossing positions and 2 from shooting positions, and Dan James was the man who got fouled on 2 of the 4 occasions. Plus, he was the main instigator, the main involvement really in the one particularly good move that we had in the first half. Another clip from the first half, clip number 4. Not my favourite type of play, but I know lots of people like this sort of play, and there's nothing wrong with it if it comes off. It's just that it doesn't come off so often. We've got a throw-in, probably in our final third. Wan-Bissaka's got the ball in his hands, and the players are moving around trying to find a little space. You can see Bruno moving, you can see Dan James moving, you can see Dan, if you watch it closely, you can see him look at Bruno, and then Wan-Bissaka throws it to him with players behind him. He jumps up and he flicks it on with the outside of his right boot, and it goes perfectly into Bruno's path, and Bruno passes it forward. And you know, if you like that sort of football, which a lot of fans do, it's actually a brilliant flick and it's a brilliant pass, which if one of our other more fancied players would have done it, I think you'd have heard a lot about it on Twitter, people saying, have you seen that great pass? But obviously with it being Dan James, you won't hear that so often. So that was a flick in the first half, a flicked pass. This is in the second half. This is an all action. This is 45 seconds all action. He receives a ball from Lindelof with a defender tight on his back. He's under pressure. He takes a touch that gets him away from his man, but he's still not facing their goal. He's facing sort of across the pitch, but at an angle, more looking backwards really. He looks forward for the pass. There isn't a pass on, so he goes backwards. The move develops. When the move gets into their third, we lose the ball and it gets cleared up the field. Not far up the field, maybe into the middle of our half. Of their half, I should say. And Dan James has been in the middle of the field since he's just passed that ball, and he's there backtracking, and he wins the header from their clearance, which then falls to McTominay. So McTominay gives it to Rashford. Rashford lays it back to Dan James, and Dan James has a run at the heart of their defence. So in this 45-second clip, you can see him receiving a pass, you can see him looking after the ball well, passing it well. You can see him winning it back after we've lost it. We've lost it as a team. You can see him winning the ball back. Then you can see him receiving it again and having a run at the heart of their defence. Now then, I know a lot of people say, you're always talking about players running into blind alleys. I am. But it's when people are doing it time and time again that I don't like, and taking that wrong decision all the time. Is it still a wrong decision? Maybe it isn't a wrong decision if you're only doing it once in a blue moon. And he runs at the heart of their defence, and I believe he gets fouled. He runs past Phillips. You can see Phillips put his arm out. You can definitely see he makes contact with him, and Dan James goes over. When you're running at speed, it does not take a lot to knock you over. So some of these commentators who've played football astonish me, or these pundits astonish me when they say, oh, he went down too easy. It doesn't take a lot when you're running at speed to make you go over. It really doesn't. And the little nudge from Phillips is making him go over. I think he's gonna collide then with one of the defenders, and he has to throw his body to try and not collide with the defender so as not to get hurt. And nobody suggests that he dives, by the way. You know, none of their players get round him. The commentator don't say it. He doesn't get booked for diving. So it's not about the fact that it looked like a dive. That was just to protect himself. He's already been fouled before that. He's been fouled it's only a second before, but he's been fouled a second before, and he's unlucky not to get a free kick, I thought, on that occasion. But it's an all-action piece for 45 seconds there. I believe all good play by Dan James. That was clip number 5. This is clip number 6. This is clip number 6 on the first thread. Harry Maguire finds him on the edge of the D, and he takes a touch and gives the ball to Marcus Rashford. Now, I'd like all our players to be more calm when they receive the ball, and not to have it in the mind that they're going to try and get a shot in every time they get it, or they're going to try and beat people every time they get it. This is not how the top teams play. I hate having to having to talk about the way other top teams play, and you know who I'm talking about, them from over the road. And they don't play like that. You know, they play by getting the ball on the floor and looking for a pass time after time after time. It's repetition, and it's only occasionally they do that burst into the box or try and take somebody on. And Dan James gets hold of this ball on the edge of the D and he plays with his head up. There's plenty of defenders between him and the goal, but he doesn't panic, and he also doesn't think, oh, I'm going to have to try and take people on. Gets it under control, has a look, gets it out of his feet and gives a simple pass. Too many people don't realise the importance of the short passing. They don't realise the importance of short passing. And people sometimes, regularly hear people say, he's got great vision. They're talking about players who can see 30 and 40 yard passes. I believe it's great vision to regularly to be able to see 4 and 5 yard passes. Too many players don't see them. So he gives the ball 4 or 5 yards to Marcus, who's just outside the box. Marcus tries some dribble, I don't know what he does, he sort of throws his foot over the ball. Somehow it gets away from his control. Have a look at the clip, it's difficult to tell what he tries to do, but it goes out of his control. They take him off it easily, but suddenly we win it back quickly. Before he's even had time to move, it comes loose, and Bruno gets it and gives it to Marcus again. And Marcus, on this occasion, turns, and as he turns, Dan James is free to his left. It's a 4 or 5 yard pass. Just pass it. But he decides to run at another. I think there's 4 defenders between him and the goal, and they just take it off him easily again. And I just wish that more of our players would play with their head up and look to pass it. And then most of the fans are criticising the player who plays like that, but don't criticise too heavily the player who's doing it wrong, in my opinion, and doing it wrong time and time again. And that's clip number 6. Clip number 7. This is going to start. This is about the rest of the clips. Although this is going to be on the first thread, and then the next 7 clips are going to be on the second thread. Clip number 7 on the first thread is the first one that's mainly about first touch and pass. Touch and pass, or touch, out of your feet and pass. Making the right decisions time and time again. And I'm going to show 7 clips that are mainly about that. And if we could get all our players playing like that, like a certain other club have got their players playing like that, it'd be more like clockwork and we would play better football. So this first clip, although it's about 30 seconds long, it's only got 1 touch and 1 pass by Dan James in it. But it ends up with Bruno putting a cross in. Even at that point, by the way, for me, it's too impatient. Bruno shouldn't be crossing it from where. Have a look at the clip. He should just give it again. There are people available to pass it to, and we're throwing it into the box when it's not really the right moment to throw it into the box. But back to Dan James. Greenwood passes it to him in the centre of the field, really, but it's slightly to Dan James's right. It's not a great ball. He has to stretch for it, but he stretches for it. His touch comes off the floor a bit. I think it comes off the floor deliberately, by the way, so that he can step onto it then and knock it with his left foot back to Lindelof, I think it goes to. And then Lindelof's in space. Dan's tightly marked, by the way, when he reaches for it. He's tightly marked, plus he's stretching for the ball. It looks like nothing. While you're watching the game, you won't think anything of it. But it's a nice, neat piece of play under pressure from a defender, stretching for a simple pass that should have been really more to his feet. But he takes control of it well, gives it to Lindelof, and the move develops and ends up with a cross from Bruno. As I say, for me, I don't think he should be crossing it at that moment. But that's the first one about the simplicity of just getting the ball under control and doing the right thing. Clip number 30. Sorry, what have I done here? I've got this wrong. Got this mixed up. Oh no, I know what I'm doing. Yes, I've got this right now. This will be clip number 8. Clip number 8 is an hospital ball I've written from Maguire. Yes, it's an hospital ball from Maguire. He does great to actually get hold of it. He really does do well, and passes it to Mason. And Mason does quite well then to sort of smuggle it through to Marcus. And Marcus has a shot when he shouldn't have a shot, which he did 2 or 3 times in the game. The defender standing right in front of him, and I think the fans are getting frustrated, and I don't know why they don't see it like this, but it's not, you know, this is numerous times. This Dan James has done really well on this occasion to actually keep the ball with the red shirts, and gives, again, a simple ball, gets hold of it, simple pass to Mason. Mason does well as well on this occasion, gives it to Marcus, and Marcus shoots when he shouldn't shoot. And then that's clip number 8. It's the first clip note on the second thread. The second clip, clip number 9, on the second thread, is a pass from Lindelof to Dan James. And Dan James does wonderfully well. This time again, real tight pressure from the defender behind him. And he manages to knock it up in the air so that he can run onto it by letting it bounce up. Sometimes players are trying to take control of a ball and it bounces up and they get knocked off it too easily. But if you're on the move and you're taking it away from the defender, it's sometimes better to let it come off the floor a bit, because they can't challenge. There's nothing they can do. If you've got the ball on the floor, they can slide in. So you can take a touch and let it come off the floor a little bit and run onto it, and it makes it more difficult for them. If you're going to try and stand still and receive the ball, then you need it to stick. So there's different ways, there's 2 different ways of looking after the ball. On this occasion, he lets it come off the floor, runs onto it, knocks it on with his thigh, and he gets it out to Rashford. He gets the ball out to Rashford. Rashford puts Luke Shaw in. You probably remember the situation, and Luke Shaw pulls it back to Bruno, who manages to get a shot in that goes wide. That is clip number 9. Clip number 10. This is just about decision making. It's no big deal, but everybody's saying it keeps breaking down. It doesn't keep breaking down at all. Obviously, you're going to lose it sometimes, and on this occasion, the ball's played out to him by Bruno, and it's bouncing. So it's more or less got to be bouncing, but it bounces up to him, so he's got to get it under. When he gets it under, he makes a little move as if he's going to take his full back on. McTominay has made a run, which has brought McTominay's man towards that area of the pitch behind that fullback, and he sees that. If he goes past his fullback, he's got McTominay and McTominay's man directly behind that defender. He decides against it. I think it's the right decision. It's all about decision making, and he turns round instead. But it's the way he does it quickly that's important. He turns round and quickly with his left foot, because that's the way he's turned. He's got to turn that way to turn away from the defender, and then plays it back with his left foot straight back to Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka plays it into Mason, and Mason loses control of it, and they take it off him. That's clip number 9. Sorry, clip number 10. Clip number 10, and then clip the last 4 clips. These are the last 4 clips, all on the second thread. You can have a look at the 4 clips. There's no point me going through each and every clip, but they're all about you'll see situations of him being tightly marked and of him getting the ball under control and passing it. A couple of them are like that, and a couple of them are just like he's available, and his touch gets it in position where he wants it to be, so that he can give it straight to his teammate. And we need more players who are playing in that manner rather than less players playing in that manner. I do get criticised a lot for going on about Dan James, but I'm only saying that to me, he is the better. He's probably our only natural winger. If we're going to play with a winger, which I do think we should play with a winger, he's the only one who's any good at playing on the wing. And virtually all these clips show decent wing play. The others can do decent wing play, but to me, Dan James is just more natural and does it right more often than the others do. Takes the right options better more often. Takes a better first touch and knows what he wants to do with the ball before he comes to it. And it's usually it's usually the right thing. It's certainly more often the right thing than it is with some of the other players who have got it in the mind before the ball comes to them that they want to try and beat a man and get a shot in. people think that's great. It isn't great because it's so difficult to do and it's so rare. It comes off occasionally, of course it does, but it's rare, and we need to start playing better. We need to start playing better. I believe we played better. We didn't play better at the weekend. We played terrible at the weekend. But I believe when we've got all the good players playing, and I believe Dan James needs to be playing, you know, we're missing Marshall in a big way. We are missing Marshall in a big way. And I don't know what was up with Cavani, whether he could have started. But, you know, we just need a better striker, really. I'm sorry, but we do. Somebody who looks after it better and can bring the winger into the play more, and also be available better to receive the ball better. So we'll see what happens at the Roma game. You know, I don't think Dan James will play in the Roma game. Maybe he was keeping Cavani fresh for that Roma game. Maybe he'll start against Roma. But we'll see. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Roma game. Getting back to that player in focus. I've watched that game 3 times now. I watched it once live. I watched it a second time, and then I've gone through it again, taking these clips of Dan James. And there's others that I could put up. There's loads of other simple stuff I could put up. And I know, as I've said, I could put up 4 or 5 things that he did wrong, but no more wrong things than anyone else, and a lot less wrong things than one other certain player did. So I thought he was certainly at least average, if not slightly above average. So maybe he could have had a 5, but I gave him a 6, and I certainly don't think I was far out if I was wrong at all. Yeah, he had a decent game. So I hope you've enjoyed that show. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Roma game. I'm going to watch the Chelsea game tonight in the Champions League. It's Chelsea Real Madrid tonight, isn't it? And City PSG tomorrow. So I'm going to watch the Chelsea game tomorrow. There might be something worth talking about in the morning about that game. I'm looking forward to that game, to be honest. Doing a great job there, Tuchel, so I'm going to watch it. Yeah, so I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Roma game, talking about the Champions League. And if you've enjoyed that show, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.